I was an intern in Nickelodeon Studios for a year in 2005 from a degree in animation. It wasn't paid, of course. Most internships aren't. But it did have some perks beyond education. To adults, it might not seem like a big one, but most kids at the time would go crazy over it. Now, since I worked directly with the editors and animators, I got to view the new episodes days before they aired. I'll get right to it without giving too much unnecessary details. They had recently made the Spongebob movie, and the entire staff were somewhat sapped of creativity, so it took them longer to start the season. But the delays lasted longer for more upsetting reasons. There was a problem with the series 4 premiere, which set everyone and everything back for several months. Me and two other interns were in the editing room, along with the lead animators and the sound editors for the final cut. We received a copy which was supposed to be Fear of Creepypasta and gathered around the screen to watch. Now, given that isn't the final, yet animators often put a mock title card, some's a sort of an inside joke whilst we're phoning off time slowed titles such as How Sex Doesn't Work instead of Rockabye Bible when SpongeBob Patrick a Dr. C style. Nothing particularly funny but work related chuckles. So when we saw the title card Squidward Suicide, we didn't think it more than a morbid joke. One of the interns did a small throw laugh at it. The happy-go-lucky music plays as normal. The story begins with Squidward practicing his clarinet, hitting a few silver notes like normal. When you hear SpongeBob laughing at silence, Squidward stops yelling at him to keep it down as he has a concert at night and needs to practice. SpongeBob says okay and goes to see Sandy with Patrick. The bubble splash screen comes up and we see the ending of Squidward's concert. This is when things began to seem off. When playing, a few frames themselves, but the sound doesn't at this point. The sound is synced up with animation, so yes, that's not common. But when he stops playing, the sound finishes as if the skip never happened. There's a slight murmur in the crowd before they begin to boo him. Not normal cartoon booing that is common in the show, but you can mouth. Squidward's in full frame and looks visibly afraid. The shot goes to the crowd with SpongeBob in centre frame, and he too is booing. Very much unlike him. That isn't the oddest thing though. But what is odd is they have hyper realistic eyes, very detailed. Clearly not shot real people's eyes, but something a bit more real than CGI. Or red. Some of us looked at each other, obviously confused, but since we weren't the writers, we didn't question the appeal to children yet. The shot goes to Squidward sitting on the edge of his bed, looking very forlorn. View the whole windows and listen after the concert. The unsettling part at this point is there's no sound, literally no sound. Not even the feedback from the speakers in the room, as if the speakers were turned off, though their status showed them working perfectly. Sat there, blinking in the silence for about 30 seconds. Then he began to sob. He put his tentacles over his eyes and quietly for a full minute more. All the while, a sound in the background very slowly grown from nothing to barely audible. It sounded like a slight breeze through a forest. The screen slowly begins to zoom on his face. By slow I mean so unnoticeable if you look at shots 10 seconds apart, side by side. His sobbing gets louder, more full of hurt and anger. The screen then twitches a bit, as if it twists on itself for a split second. Then back to normal. And when the tree is louder, more storm is brewing somewhere. There is a sound, and Squidward's real. As if the sound wasn't coming from the speakers, but the speakers were the holes the sound's coming. As good as the sound as the studio likes to punch the quiz to be that good to produce sound quality. But below the sound of sobbing, when they sobbing, very faint, something some laughing, odd intervals, and never lasted more than a second. So you had a hard time pinning it. We watched this show twice, so pardon me if things sound too specific, but I've had time to think about them. After 30 seconds of this, the screen blurred and twitched violently, and something flashed over the screen as if a single frame was replaced. The lead animator paused and rewound it frame by frame. What we saw was horrible. It was a still photo of a dead child. He couldn't have been more than 6. The face was mangled and bloodied. One eye dangling over his upturned face popped. He was naked down to his underwear. His stomach crudely cut open and his entrails lying behind him.
Let's go.
He was on some pavement. It was probably a road. The upsetting part of it was a shadow of the photographer. There was no crime tape, no evidence or markers, and the angle was completely off for a shot designed to be evidence. It would seem the photographer was the person responsible for the child's death. We were of course mortified, but pressed on hoping it was just a sick joke. The screen flipped back to Squidward, sobbing louder than before. There was now what appeared to be blood running down his face. The blood was also done in hyper-realistic style, looking as if you touched it you get blood in your fingers. The wind sounded now if it was a gale blowing through the forest. There was even snapping sounds of branches, laughing, a deep baritone lasting at longer intervals and coming more frequently. After about 20 seconds, the screen again twisted and showed a single frame photo. The editor was reluctant to go back. We all were, but you knew you had to. This time the photo was what appeared to be a little girl, no older than the first child. She was laying on her stomach, her breasts were in a pool of blood next to her. Her left eye was popped out and popped naked, except for underparts her entrails. Her entrails were piled on top of her body and her hood cut along her back. Again the body was in the street and her shadow was visible, similar in size and shape to the first. I had to choke back vomit, and one intern, the only female in the room, ran out. The show resumed. After 5 seconds after this second photo, Squidward went silent. I said all sound, like it was when the scene started. He put his tentacles down and his eyes were done in hyper-realism, like the others were in the beginning of the episode. They were bleeding, bloodshot and pulsating. He just stared at the screen as if watching the viewer. After about 10 seconds he started sobbing, this time not covering his eyes. The sound was piercing and loud and most fear-inducing of all, as his sobbing was mixed with screams. Tears and blood were dripping down his face at a heavy rate. The wind sound came back, so did the deep voice laughing, and this time the still photo lasted for a good 5 frames. The animator was able to stop it on the 4th frame backed up. This time the photo was of a boy around the same age, but this time the scene was different. The entrails were just pulled out of his stomach wound by a large hand. The right eye popped and dangling, blood trickling down it. The animator proceeded. It was hard to believe, but the next one was different. We couldn't tell what. He went to the next, same thing. He went back to the first and played them quicker and I'd lost it. I vomited on the floor. The animators and sound editors gasping at the screen. The 5 frames were not out of 5 different photos. They were all 5. They were all played out as if they were frames from a video. We watched his hand slowly lift out the guts. We saw the kid's eyes focusing on it. We even saw 2 frames of the kid beginning to blink. The lead sound editor told us to stop. We had to call in the creator to see this. Mr. Hillenberg arrived within 15 minutes. He was so confused as to why he's called. So as the editor had just continued the episode. Once the few frames were shown, all screen, all sound again stopped. Squidward just staring at the viewer. Full frame of the face for about 3 seconds. The shot panned out and a deep voice said, "Do it." And we see Squidward hand a shotgun. He immediately puts the gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger. Realistic blood and brain matter splatters the wall behind him in his bed, and he flies back with force. The last 5 seconds of the episode show his body on the bed, on his side, one eye dangling of what's left of his head on the floor, staring blankly at it. Then the episode ends. Mr. Hillenburg is obviously angry at this. He demanded to know what the heck was going on. Most people left the room at this point, so it was just a handful of us to watching it. Viewing the episode twice only served to imprint the eternity of it in my mind and caused me horrible nightmares. I'm sorry I stayed. The one theory we could think of is that the file was edited by someone in the chain from the George studio to here. The CTO was called in to analyse what happened. The analysis of the file did show it was edited over a new material. However, this timestamp was a mere 24 seconds before we began viewing. All equipment involved was examined for foreign software and hardware, as well as glitches if the timestamp may have glitched and showed the wrong time. But everything else checked out fine. We don't know what happened to this day. Nobody does. It was an investigation due to the nature of the photos, but nothing came of it. No child scene was identified, nor clues were gathered from the data, nor the physical clues in the photo. I never believed in unexplainable phenomena before, but I have something happened and can't prove anything else. Beyond anecdotal evidence, I think twice about things now.